Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a piece from We Are False, a place that loves to explore the stories and facts that, that go against the grain and really challenge what you think you know. We're pulling back the curtain on a debate tactic that's all about distracting, not discussing. The ad hominem attack.
You've been there, right? You're in a passionate discussion, you feel like you're making a really solid, well-reasoned point, and then bam, the conversation just screeches to a halt. Instead of talking about your argument, your opponent says something just like this. And suddenly, the whole topic shifts away from the issue and onto you.
All right, so think of this as your field guide. First, we're going to figure out what ad hominem even means. Then, we'll look at all the different ways people launch personal attacks. We'll get into the psychology of why they work, find the one time it's actually not a low blow, and finally, the big one, how to respond without losing your cool. Let's jump in.
Okay, let's dive right in. What exactly is an ad hominem attack? That name, which is Latin, gives us a huge clue. It means to the person.
And that's exactly what it is. It's a classic argumentative mistake where instead of engaging with the actual substance of an argument, someone just attacks their opponent's character, their situation, something personal about them. The source puts it perfectly. It's like a football player tackling the quarterback instead of going for the ball. It's a total distraction, right? The goal is to discredit the speaker, hoping that by doing so, their argument gets discredited too, all without ever having to prove the argument itself is actually wrong.
But here's a twist you might not see coming. The ad hominem hasn't always been a dirty word. Back in ancient Greece, even a guy like Aristotle saw it as a totally valid way to find inconsistencies in what an opponent was saying. Fast forward to the 17th century, and thinkers like John Locke still thought it was a legitimate move. It wasn't until the 20th century that its meaning completely shifted to what we know today, an irrelevant, fallacious personal attack. It really just goes to show how our ideas of what makes a fair argument have evolved over time.
All right, let's get back to our field guide, because these personal attacks, they're not all the same. They actually come in a few different and sometimes pretty sneaky varieties.
So, you've got a few main types here. There's the abusive kind, that's just a straight-up insult. He's a moron, so his plan is bad. Easy to spot. But then it gets sneakier. The circumstantial attack says your argument is wrong just because of who you are. Of course, the guy from a farm state wants farm subsidies. Then you have tu quoque, which is Latin for you too. This is the classic hypocrisy attack. How can you tell me to save money? You just bought a new car. You also see guilt by association, which tries to discredit someone by linking them to a disliked group. And maybe the sneakiest is poisoning the well, where they share negative info about you before you even get to speak, just to taint everyone's opinion. Recognizing which one is being used is absolutely the first step to disarming it.
So, if these attacks aren't logical, why on earth are they so effective? Well, the answer has almost nothing to do with logic and everything to do with our own psychology.
See, it's not about logic at all. It's a defense mechanism. The source calls it intellectual desperation. When someone feels like they can't find a flaw in the actual logic of an argument, they pivot. They attack the person presenting it. It's all about protecting their own ego from that uncomfortable feeling of being wrong.
And these attacks work because they basically hijack our brain's built-in shortcuts. Take the reverse halo effect. You learn one negative thing about someone, and suddenly their entire argument seems kind of suspicious. These fallacies also feed our negativity bias. We're just wired to pay way more attention to insults than to data. And honestly, it just reduces our cognitive load. It's easier for our brains to dismiss a person than to do the hard work of analyzing a complex issue.
And that's the core appeal, right there. These attacks provide what the source calls an emotionally satisfying shortcut. It lets an audience form a judgment, feel certain about it, and they get to do it all without the hard mental work of actually weighing the evidence.
Okay, but this is a really crucial distinction we have to make. Not every single personal attack is a logical fallacy. Sometimes, a person's character or circumstances aren't a distraction at all, they're central to the whole point.
The key is one word: relevance. And the source gives us this awesome, simple tool called the relevance test. All you have to do is ask this one question: is the personal characteristic being talked about directly relevant to the argument at hand?
This comparison here just nails it perfectly. Look at the fallacious one. This scientist's theory is wrong because he cheated on his wife. His personal life has absolutely nothing to do with his math, right? It's irrelevant, a total fallacy. Now look at the valid one. This politician's speech on family values should be questioned because he cheated on his wife. See the difference? In this case, his personal conduct is directly relevant to the credibility of his claims on that specific topic. It's not a distraction, it's central to the point. It all comes down to relevance.
Okay, so you've spotted an ad hominem, you've run the relevance test in your head, and you've confirmed it's a low blow. So now what? How do you respond without getting dragged down into the mud?
And you know that feeling, don't you? It happens and you can just feel your blood pressure start to rise. That's exactly what the attacker wants. They want to get you flustered and defensive. So how do you stay calm and pull things back to the actual topic? Well, the source lays out 3 clear, actionable strategies. First, you can simply identify and redirect. Just calmly point out the fallacy and then pivot right back to the real issue. Second, you can acknowledge and move on. A simple, I understand you see it that way, but that's not what we're discussing, works wonders. And third, especially online, sometimes the best move is to just ignore the attack. You just deny them the emotional reaction they're looking for.
And this really is the bottom line. This quote just sums it all up perfectly. A strong argument can stand on its own 2 feet. It doesn't need personal attacks to prop it up. When someone resorts to a personal attack, they are quietly conceding that they have run out of logical ammunition.
So, as we wrap this up, recognizing an ad hominem is kind of like gaining a superpower. It lets you see the exact moment a discussion has veered off course, and it gives you the tools to steer it back. Because really, the goal isn't just to win debates, it's to have better ones. So the question I want to leave you with is, how will you use this to elevate your next conversation?